Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg, and I'm back. I would say better than ever, but I mean, uh, maybe I'm a liar. I don't know. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well today. I see we have Warren here on the chat line. How are you doing, Warren? Great, always seeing you. Um, Friday. I had a funeral to go to, which is why I wasn't able to be on the chat line for a morning extra. Looking forward to morning extra tomorrow morning. And everybody, if you are not subscribed to Extra Bulla, please do so. He's got a great show with Morning Extra every Tuesday and Friday at 11 p.m. 11 a.m. Sorry, 11 a.m. And at midnight, Saturday night / early Sunday morning, you got the Secret Show. And so, high recommendations for both Morning Extra and the Secret Show. We have also Max RJ. How are you doing today, Max RJ? And as I said, I'm worried. I'm not doing too bad. Wait, Warren said here, no show tomorrow, but Wednesday and Friday this week. Noted. So anyway, what we're going to talk about, in a way you could call it a, hold on, in a way, Max RJ says, and the War and Peace Report. You can call it that. Yeah, you can call it that. I call it an act of contrarianism. Now, you both, and everybody else in the audience will all know that I'm not a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've never been a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Never will be a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. As everybody know, and I think everybody's guilty as I am in this audience, that there was a time that we supported AOC and thought, well, we thought she meant well. She had the best of intentions, and she's been extremely, extremely disappointing to the point where I don't take her seriously anymore. She's a silly person. She is a silly, self-absorbed person. Beautiful to look at. I can't take that away from AOC, but and I know I'm objectifying women. I know. I'm an ugly, middle-aged straight man. What can I say? My eyes are not going to lie. But what I'm also saying is that that there's when it comes to AOC, as angry as frustrated as I get with her, I don't want to call it a soft spot, but there were times that Marjorie Taylor Greene will literally bully AOC, and that pissed me off. Even now, because Marjorie Taylor Greene, Marjorie Taylor Greene's fucking trash. Now, I hate to admit this, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, as problematic as she is, Marjorie Taylor Greene has forced me to almost side with her. I'm about to gag. And AOC shown to everybody how disappointing she can be. But before we get to this, I would like to have a little bit of humor to kind of draw everybody in, especially as the crowd will come in. They'll come in droves. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little bit of Tim Dillon humor. I think that's would be very appropriate. He interviews a Gazan who is pro-Israel in his Tim Dillon sense of comedy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show. Earlier this week, 30-year-old teenagers, the Nelk Boys, received a massive amount of backlash for their interview with Benjamin Netanyahu. And although Netanyahu is widely reviled, he does maintain some support with people across the world and even a few people in Gaza. So here to comment is Nassab from Gaza, who is a big supporter of Netanyahu.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on this sub. So now tell us your story. What's happening in Gaza and why do you support Benjamin Netanyahu?
Yes, Tim. So, like many people in Gaza, I have every reason to hate Israel. Shortly after October 7th, my family was sheltering under a donkey, and Hamas decided to dig a tunnel under the donkey and use the donkey as a human shield, taking out not only my family, but my head and arms and torso. And I put that blame on these barbarians that make up Hamas, because Israel is very good and merciful. And right before they bomb our donkey, they send out a text and they say, we are going to bomb your donkey in 20 seconds. But unfortunately, I forgot to charge my phone.
Well, I mean, that's Nasab. I'm sorry to hear that. But what about now? There are reports from over 100 human rights organizations that Israel is orchestrating a famine in the Gaza Strip.
Tim, that is simply also not true. Israel send all kind of wonderful Israeli cuisine to Gaza. Pita bread, hummus, falafel, and baba ganoush. And Hamas is stealing the food. Do you know what is true about Hamas? All of their wives and girlfriends are obese. They are chubby chasers. They are...
Hold on. Now, I have a little trouble. I have a little trouble believing that. What about the baby food? Are they stealing the baby food?
Yes, Tim, this is what is sick about these monsters in Hamas. They pretend that they are babies. So under the tunnels, they steal the baby food and the baby formula, and they dress up like babies, and they drink formula from bottles, and they wear diaper, and they make their plus-size women change their diaper. These are very sick people. And when the hostages ask for food, they say, we do not know. What are you talking about? We are just little babies. You will have to ask my parents.
Well, Nasab, I had no idea that this was happening, that Hamas were pretending to be babies and stealing the food. It's actually amazing. Are there a lot of Palestinians who agree with you?
Well, Tim, you also probably do not know this, but Palestinian is not real people. Did you know Yasser Arafat, he was from Egypt? That's why when you think about it, it's okay to kill us and even put us in an oven. And you might not know this, but many Arabs, they actually enjoy being killed. The Quran says they will go to heaven, so that is why they love being shot and droned and burned and crushed by rubble.
I can't co-sign that. I can't really agree with that. That sounds really, really insane. That it sounds like Israeli propaganda. It seems crazy.
What about the anti-Semitism on the college campuses and in New York City? You are about to elect a terrorist for your mayor.
Yes, but it's so surprising to me that you feel this way because you're a leg. You're just a leg. I mean, they've taken everything from you. I mean, you're just a leg, but you're still supportive of this.
I guess I just really like the techno music and everything that come out of that beautiful country.
All right, Noab, everyone. That's from Gaza. He supports Netanyahu. I want to.
Yeah, that was old Tim Dillon there, trying to use humor to address a very serious issue. The leg, obviously the fake leg with the microphone represents the Palestinian, and it was yes, Warren, you're correct. It was raw but right. It was a very Tim Dillon has a sick, demented mind, which is why I like to listen to Tim Dillon. So, but he's really laid it down with some serious facts about what's going on over there, fucking genocide, and the United States is on the wrong side of history on this one. It's been on the wrong side of history of many things. Some things the United States might have been on the correct side on, very rare, but without a question, the United States is on the wrong side of history right now as we speak. And hopefully there will be a day where the United States will sever relationship with Israel and further isolate that country because of the crimes against humanity that's being committed. And no, folks, anybody who watches this that happens to be a Zionist, I am not anti-Semitic. I do not dislike nor hate Jews or anybody for that matter. On the basis of their identity, that I do not. Plus, I have too many Woody Allen movies to ever be anti-Semitic, so there is that as well. But having that said, the thing about it is that I'm going to play some two clips, and I'll comment as well. One from Nick Cruz from Revolutionary Blackout Network, and the other one from Glenn Greenwald. Both their takes on Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC. And shame on AOC for this, really, honestly. So she manages to disappoint even further, as just in case you didn't notice. And I think that most people would have noticed that. So, all right, we'll let Nick Cruz take it away.
Controlled our position because she sent weapons to Israel, dipshits. She voted for Donald Trump, who enabled all these wars. At RBN, we are begging people to stop falling for the political theater. So I'm saying this because it's very important to say Marjorie Taylor Greene is allowed to say this because she is the heel. And her job is to tie everyone else who has correct positions to the back. So people like Bernie Sanders say, oh, I support Ukraine aid. What do you? You support Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson. That's why you're allowed to say stuff. She's a useful idiot in the establishment. Marjorie Taylor Greene, just like Bernie Sanders and AOC, and some people may get mad at me for saying this. I don't care. She plays a very particular role for the establishment. Like whenever people say, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Marjorie Taylor Greene is speaking out against Israel," and I'm like, that's the least surprising thing. Like you guys realize that they gave Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's like in a deep Georgia district. Her seat is safe. Like she plays a very important role for the establishment. She's the conspiracy theory. She said all this crazy batshit. Like she like Alex Jones.
He's worse than Alex Jones. Alex Jones is at least funny. Having all that said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, as you know, voted against funding the Iron Dome for Israel. And I will say this, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's no secret, Marjorie Taylor Greene is anti-Semitic, but she's not wrong to vote against the Iron Dome funding. And he surprisingly made a few comments as to why. And like Nick says, she plays a role, and she is, a useful idiot for the establishment, much like AOC is a useful idiot for the establishment. So we'll let Nick continue.
She says 1,000 bad things, and then she's allowed to speak up against the war in Ukraine. She's allowed to call out Israel as a nuclear state. The establishment don't mind that because the establishment can then turn and say, oh, look at you. You're aligning with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Don't you know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a conspiracy theorist? And Marjorie Taylor Greene, she knows her role. She knows she's the heel. And see, my friend Zoya knows she's controlled our position because she sent weapons to Israel, dipshits. She voted for Donald Trump, who enabled all these wars. At RBN, we are begging people to stop falling for the political theater. So I'm saying this because it's very important to say Marjorie Taylor Greene is allowed to say this because she is the heel. And her job is to tie everyone else who has correct positions to the back. So people like Bernie Sanders say, "Oh, I support Ukraine aid." What are you? You support Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson. That's why she allowed to say kind of stuff. She's a useful idiot in the establishment. But here's Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking about her bill, and you will never guess. I bet you will. Who votes against?
Mr. Speaker, as the House considers the defense appropriation bill today that costs the American people $831 billion, it's important to talk about that this is the funding for our great men and women serving in our military and our nation's defense. The Department of Defense's mission statement is to deter war and ensure our nation's security, and that is worthy of the American people's hard-earned tax dollars. However, the American people are $37 trillion in debt. So this is money that is being spent that they already don't have. My amendment would strike $500 million in funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense system. And it's important to phrase it that way. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation, which is very capable of defending themselves, and they have been proving that so as we've watched on the world stage. The U.S. already provides Israel with $3.8 billion annually in foreign aid. $3.8 billion, that's a lot of money. Additionally, the April 2024 security supplemental included $8.7 billion for Israel. That is nuclear-armed Israel. And during the recent 12-day war, the U.S. used 15 to 20% of our terminal high-altitude area defense missiles stockpiles defending nuclear-armed Israel, which cost us over $800 million. The $500 million provided in this bill will fund Israel's, that is nuclear-armed Israel's, missile defense system, the Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow system. Yet Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. That's a pretty big deterrent for any of their enemies. Any nation that has a nuclear bomb has the greatest threat against their enemies. USA typically accounts for 15 to 20% of Israel's defense budget, even though Israel, nuclear-armed Israel, has universal health care for their citizens and subsidized college for their citizens.
Okay, let's talk about that last part. What Marjorie Taylor Greene said. That Israel provides universal health care and subsidized college education for the population. That part of Israel, I have no problem with. But the problem I have with Marjorie Taylor Greene making that argument is this. Bitch, while you're saying Israel provides medical care for people and college for all, as if that's what we should do here, which is what we should do, by the way, you're against these things. You're against universal health care. You're against free college education here in the United States. But you act like it's kind of admirable elsewhere? Make that make sense. Please. Make that make sense.
They're able to provide.
I'm sorry. For all the MAGA Zionists, and I guess this applies to all the Democrats too, why is it crazy communism? Why is it socialism when we advocate for free healthcare, but it's okay to send the United States taxpayer money to fund healthcare for Israelis? They will never explain it. Doesn't make any sense. But this is Marjorie Taylor Greene given permission from the establishment to speak out against the Iron Dome and the United States sending Israel money. And they allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to do this so they can malign people like Rashid Tlaib and Ilhan Omar for voting for this. Because now they can say Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, anti-Semites join the right-wing anti-Semites to vote against Israel's right to defend itself.
Yeah, that's the weird thing right there. While I do think that Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are sellouts, I don't believe they're anti-Semitic. and some people will look at me and say, "Are you crazy? They're both Muslim." No, I don't think so. I mean, the fact is that they both supported a Zionist in 2016 and 2020 for president by the name of Bernie Sanders, and he is a Zionist, a labor Zionist, old school one. That ideology no longer exists. But Nick is right that is a divide and conquer strategy to lump everything in the form of extremism. And the United States is pretty good about trying to go and trying to find extremists to vilify. And so what I think is, and what I think on AOC's part, she's doing it just simply because she does not like Marjorie Taylor Greene, a position I can understand, to be contrarian. So AOC, the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene was semi-praising Israel for having universal health care, does that mean, AOC, you're now against universal health care? Which I think you might be, because you wouldn't support force to vote and you're too tepid, and so is the squad, to go and fight for Medicare for all, or fight for raising the minimum wage, or a public option, or fight for Build Back Better. Y'all did the service of making, people like myself who had a slim hope in the Democratic Party years ago, solidifying that the Democrats are fucking no better than the Republicans. We expect Republicans to be assholes, and we expect, a good chunk of the Democrats to be assholes too, but to have a small group of purportedly leftist people trying to do the what's called the hostile takeover of the Democratic Party that Kyle Kulinski and Cenk Uygur once talked about years ago. It's frustrating hearing Kyle Kulinski talk about it today, because he's acting like it's just going to happen overnight. There will be a takeover of the Democratic Party. He knows that's not the case. But anyway, this is Nick Cruz talking about the situation with Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she is, in her way, sus when it comes to her positions on opposing Iron Dome funding. And so check out Revolutionary Blackout Network. Great program. I watch it quite a bit. Just decided to do that. And we see here, Kameshwari Kate, how are you doing today? I see. Glad to see you here. And CBC Voter. Just saying, well, I hope you're back. So he said bye there. I wasn't quite following that. But anyway, so let's talk about Glenn Greenwald, because Glenn Greenwald had also his insight on this situation. So give me a moment here. We're going to set it for AOC's cowardly vote to fund Israel's Iron Dome. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Marjorie Taylor Greene was able to attract one Republican, Thomas Massie, who coincidentally is somebody that Donald Trump is desperate to remove from Congress, and four Democrats: Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Al Green, and Summer Lee. So that's a total of 6 votes. 422 were against. 422 to 6. As I've often said, the only time you see bipartisan majorities so overwhelming is when there's something on the floor relating to Israel. It's always like 413 to 3, 419 to 7. The only kind of thing that produces votes like that is Israel. Now, one of the people who was not on the list of 6 voting against sending $500 million for Israel's military. And she was, in fact, a no vote. One of the 422 no votes was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, queen of the left, queen of the working class. And she voted to have American workers send $500 million to bolster Israel's military. And here's what she had to say when there was an obvious uproar over the fact that the queen of the left and the queen of the working class voted that way, while Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and those 4 Democrats didn't. Here's what she said. Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment does nothing to cut off offensive aid to Israel, nor end the flow of U.S. munitions being used in Gaza. Of course, I voted against it. Okay. What she's saying there is that, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill didn't cut off everything. It cut off some stuff, but not everything. And so, of course, I voted against it. How does that make any sense in the world? Especially, as I said, because if you don't send them $500 million on those replenishing of their air defense, that's $500 million of their own that they have to spend. They have less than to spend on the stuff AOC pretends she wants to stop. And the reason Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't try and cut off all that funding is because it's already in law. This was a bill pending that had this money for this specific military program, and that was what she was able to cut off. So that part of that rationale is so stupid as to be insulting to all of her supporters. And I have to say, even the ones who usually are willing to swallow whatever she feeds them did not accept that. It makes no sense. And the way she says it, like, of course I voted against it. It's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, she didn't cut off everything. She just cut off some things. Of course I voted against it. And then this is what she goes on to say, quote, what it does do is cut off defensive Iron Dome capabilities while allowing the actual bombs killing Palestinians to continue. I have long stated that I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims to this war is constructive to its end. That is a simple and clear difference of opinion that has long been established. I remain focused on cutting the flow of U.S. munitions that are being used to perpetuate the genocide in Gaza. Okay, so get this. According to AOC, Israel is currently guilty of the worst crime a country can possibly commit, which is the crime of genocide. The extinguishing of an entire population based on race, ethnicity, or nationality. Israel, she says, is committing genocide in Gaza. For a long time, she didn't say that. She got publicly harassed, and finally she said it, but that's her view. Israel's committing genocide. So imagine saying that. This country, Israel, is committing a genocide against the 2.2 million people in Gaza, or however many are left. And at the same time, I want to pay for the air defense system of the country that's committing the genocide. I want to send the country that's committing the genocide $500 million so that they don't have to pay for their own air defense system and are free to use that money on the weapons that she says she wants to stop,
Let me interrupt there. There's a simple answer to that. When it comes to AOC, all day long, AOC has a propensity to go and say one thing and tell you how bad a certain bill's going to be, and then ends up voting for it. I noticed that from day one with the CARES Act back in 2020. And pretty much a lot of other legislations. The Iron Dome vote that she originally voted for years ago to not fund Iron Dome, and Nancy Pelosi pecked on her like a teacher scolding a child, and then she went crying and voted precedent on the Iron Dome. And while right-wing partisan hacks want to make her sound like she's a young little jihadi or something like that, a Hamas plant or whatever they want to project about AOC, AOC is you know, she's kind of evolved not into just being the new Nancy Pelosi, but she's also evolved into turning into um, turning into a liberal Zionist or a labor Zionist, an ideology that is no longer in existence, really. Um, and when she runs for president, she's going to be in terrible shape because, the APAC people are going to eat her alive. No matter how much she sucks up to them, no matter how much she tries to. AOC has no convictions about anything. And she, like Nick Cruz said earlier about controlled opposition, Marjorie Taylor Greene being controlled opposition. Likewise, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is controlled opposition too. Purpose of AOC, in my view. Now, when I compare Bernie Sanders to AOC, do I think that Bernie Sanders' intention, at least initially when he ran in 2016, 2020, was to sheep herd people into the Democratic Party just for the sake of sheep herding? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, although I have harsh words toward Bernie Sanders these days. But I think with AOC, that is the case. To go and sheep herd Democrats, new Democrats, to come up with the buzz phrases in the great culture war that exists, the virtue signal, and then not do a damn thing. And so, I used to get mad when some people said that AOC is the Marjorie Taylor Greene of the left, or vice versa. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the AOC of the right. And I would say, hey, lay off AOC. There's no way in hell that AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene are the same. Well, AOC has turned into not just Nancy Pelosi, which is bad enough, but she's turned into Marjorie Taylor Greene with her role to play. Both AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene are controlled opposition. And they're there to basically, keep the culture war alive and to make us forget about all the other problems of domestically at home, the income inequality, the declining middle class that used to exist here, to make us forget about the crap that goes on around the world. The genocide in Gaza, the U.S. basically indirectly, I will still say indirectly, but it's still bad enough because they are knowingly doing this, just as they knowingly helped Saudi Arabia commit genocide against the people of Yemen, that the United States is actually enabling neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. To the point where Marjorie Taylor Greene also kind of correct on the Ukraine situation, that kind of turned a lot of progressives who should know better contrarian. Oh, we support Ukraine because Marjorie Taylor Greene is against supporting the Ukraine. Okay, look. Liberals, progressives. It's okay. It's okay to hate Donald Trump. It's okay to hate Marjorie Taylor Greene. But it's also okay to say, hey, when they're seldom correct on something, to say, okay, they're correct on this, that, and the other. Oh, and I want to make it clear that I don't support them on anything else, all their fucked up positions. It is okay. But you see, they do this on both sides. I mean, I noticed this back in the early 90s with Bill Clinton when he was supporting NAFTA. And Rush Limbaugh would sit there and talk shit about Bill Clinton, but they were on the same side on a bunch of issues. In other words, you have partisan hacks that wants to go and own the other side. That's what it comes down to. And we had, I remember you, Joey. How are you doing today? Fuck AOC, fuck Bernie, and fuck them all. The ACP is where to go if you are done with electoral politics and wants to build dual power. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Fuck AOC, fuck Bernie at this point. I mean, and the money that I've given to some of these candidates over the years, it just frustrates me, what I could have done with all that money over the years, But we'll let Glenn Greenwald continue.
How unbelievably stupid is that? How insultingly twisted is that rationale? You call it a genocide and then justify in the same breath sending that same genocidal country $500 million, not for welfare, not for educational opportunities, not for eliminating racial inequality or whatever, but for their military. It's their military budget. It's the same thing. It's like the US military budget. Doesn't differentiate between defensive and offensive weapons. And when you have the ability to protect yourself, for example, let's say that there are these YouTubers who get very wealthy and they hire huge bodyguards theoretically to safeguard them and protect them in case they're attacked. But obviously that gives them a massive amount of confidence to go around harassing people, and many of them do, knowing that they have these bodyguards right there to defend them in case anything happens back. So if you build Israel an Iron Dome and say, don't worry, we're going to pay for it. The U.S. workers are going to pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. Your workers don't have to pay for it. Don't worry about it. We have that under control. That's what it then enables Israel to go have the confidence to go fight and bomb other countries, is knowing that we've paid for a system that prevents their country from getting attacked back. It's totally fungible. You cannot just, this differentiation between, I want to pay for genocidal Israel's defensive system but not offensive. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then the other point she's basically saying is that, look, I am what I am above all else, AOC is saying, I am a humanitarian. I don't want to see any innocent people dying. And so, although I think Israel is committing genocide, it doesn't mean that I want innocent Israelis to be killed. I don't want to see any innocent people being killed. So of course I'm going to pay for force American workers, including people in my district, to pay for Israel's defensive systems that prevent their civilians from being killed.
AOC position on that. It's okay to say you don't want innocents dying on either side. That's not unreasonable. But what is unreasonable is enabling a country to commit genocide. In spite of its tiny size, Israel is a strong nation. And it's being propped up by the United States. And no politician, they talk about Russiagate, they talk about Putin, pulling the strings of Donald Trump. I never, ever, ever believed that shit from day one. Doesn't make me a Putin apologist, but it makes me, in tune with reality. That it is stupid to assume that Putin controls the political culture of the United States. I was angry when that came out. Now, do I think that Benjamin Netanyahu has great control? Obviously, Obama was a coward against Netanyahu. And so was Donald Trump, and so is Donald Trump currently. They're both cowered before Benjamin Netanyahu. You have Christians in the United States, evangelicals, who talk about Benjamin Netanyahu as if, he was the incarnation of Christ among them, and got very defensive about the liberals attacking Christians. But when it came to Pope Francis, not saying Pope Francis was like perfect or anything, but he was a fairly progressive pope. They had nothing but disdain for Pope Francis. And while I'm saying that he wasn't perfect, there was more decency in Pope Francis' pinky than there ever would be in this toxic pile of shit called Benjamin Netanyahu. But anyway, we'll let Glenn Greenwald continue.
But then that prompts the question, why doesn't, there are a lot of countries who are either in danger of getting bombed or who are getting bombed. Russia, for example, is getting bombed by Ukrainian missiles and drones. The Iranians are constantly being threatened with that and just got bombed for 12 straight days and have been bombed previously by Israel. The Gazans are being bombed. People in the West Bank are being bombed. Syria is being bombed. Lebanon is being bombed. Why isn't AOC saying we should pay for air defenses for any country that's in danger of being bombed or is being bombed to protect their civilians? Because I, AOC, am such a humanitarian that I'm even willing to pay for the air defense systems of a country that I claim is committing genocide. But she doesn't want that. She doesn't advocate for that. She's never said, let's have the American worker build an air defense system for Iran.
You see, that's an interesting point he just brought out, because I have argued that when Reagan in the 80s was talking about SDI, and we don't know whether Strategic Defense Initiative would have worked or not, but the objective of the SDI was to intercept Soviet missiles to make sure that they do not attack the United States. In theory, that was the intention. I would say it wouldn't have been a bad idea if you given the technology also to the adversaries, because if everybody has that, it would make nuclear war obsolete. But that's kind of a perspective I have there on that. But the point is that AOC is control opposition. Is she really better than Marjorie Taylor Greene? Is what I'm asking, and I venture to say that she's not. I want to cut this fairly short because I have to go to work in a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it and share the perspective of both Glenn Greenwald and Nick Cruz and what they both have to say about this subject matter. And also illustrate that, whether you're, a Bernie bro type progressive, for those who remain Bernie bros, or whether you're MAGA, let this be a lesson to you that the two-party system is shit and it must be dismantled. It must be dismantled. To still rely on this two-party shit swamp, it's like repeating insanity over and over. Joey says, I remember when you didn't dye your hair, Willie. Well, I'm going through a midlife crisis. That's what's going on right now. So, strangely enough, I changed the subject. I got kind of praised, by two ladies at Denny's the other day. One of them was kind of impressive because she was actually kind of cute, the younger one, and she just like, she just made an old fart like me feel good. So, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, yeah, very true. So anyway, I wanted to discuss this, and I was so sorry for being on kind of hiatus in the last few weeks. Just a lot of stuff going on. I have family to contend with. I took my parents to the airport yesterday, and I slept for the longest time and all that. So Anyway, and anywho, I should be back here by Wednesday, and I thank y'all for putting up with my shenanigans. And whoever this I is, hey, how are you doing? I never want to leave anybody out if there's anybody that's been over here. So looks like what I see so far in the chat line is Extra Bula, Max Sarjay, CBC Voter, Kameshwari Kate, and I, and Joey Schwartz. Chance. I'm sorry, Joey Chance. And I want to tell you all that I appreciate all of y'all. And we're getting close to 1,000. It's finally looking like it's going to happen sometime this year. And so I want to thank you all for helping Willie Bragg do this thing I'd like to do, this political thing I've been doing for 5.5 years now. So thank you all. And I like to conclude by saying, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment any way you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content with everyone on my channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. And to remember to reject corporate media. My gosh, that needs to be rejected more than ever. And to remember to subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show on all my platforms if you haven't subscribed yet. I will conclude by saying free and pardon Ed Snowden, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and fight like hell to preserve our First Amendment rights, free speech, And of course, let me just say, fuck Tom Holman. Y'all take care and have a great evening. How you doing, Earl? Everybody, I'm out of here. I should be back looking like Wednesday at this point. Take care. Love you all. Bye-bye.